Welcome back to Film Files. In today's file, we will be uncovering a dark fantasy drama film from 2016 titled A Monster Calls. Sit back, and let's dive in. This is the story of a boy and an imaginary monster. The boy named Conor is having a nightmare. An abandoned church building near his house is falling into a sinkhole. He desperately holds onto someone but eventually lets go as that unidentified person falls into the abyss. Conor wakes up suddenly, and his side table clock reads 7 minutes past midnight. The next morning, he starts to prepare for school. He makes some toast and also does a little laundry. He is in his school uniform now and is just about to wear his socks when he hears a cough from the other room. He goes over to check it out and can only peek through the slightly open door at his mother. She is sick, and he doesn't want to bother her. He picks up the keys and heads out to school all by himself. He is distracted in class, and a teacher who knows his situation is concerned. A bully, on the other hand, eyes him. After school, Conor is on the floor being beaten. But he is soon on his way home. Once inside his house, he sees that his mother has taken out the old film projector. They watch King Kong together before his mother drifts off to sleep. While in his room, Conor is doodling when he hears a deep voice. He ignores it at first, but his pen falls to the floor and is magically drawn to the window. It is very windy outside by the time Conor opens the windows. Then something incredible happens. In the distance from where Conor is, he sees a tree being transformed into a giant humanoid monster. It walks across the field as it approaches him. Then it grabs him through his window. And it says it has 3 tales to tell Conor, to which Conor must reciprocate with his own story. In the middle of some bantering, Conor wakes up and heads for his mother's bedroom. He gets into bed beside her. She protests at first but allows him to snuggle. The next morning he checks out the field around the church and the tree. He soon gets back indoors and finds his grandmother speaking to his mum. Conor's grandmother asks that he make them some tea. In the middle of preparing some tea for them, his mother cries out in agony at the pain. She is fed a teaspoon of some important medicine for her condition. That night, Conor has to sleep downstairs as his granny commandeers his room. Amongst other things, she is here to make arrangements for him to start living with her. Conor is soon dreaming again of the sinkhole and the church. The humanoid tree monster also features. It appears to him and, after a little hesitance, tells Conor the first story it promised him. It tells Conor of a king who had 3 sons by his queen. But these sons are all taken on the battlefield. His wife also dies. All the king has left is a stepson, which he raises as a prince and the last resort. The king also remarries, and soon enough, the rumors start spreading that the new queen is a witch. So when the king dies, she takes over power, especially because the prince hasn't come of age at this point. She even tries to marry him to consolidate her position of power, but he likes another girl instead. He tries to run away with her to avoid the jealousy of the queen. On the night, they rest under the monster tree, and the girl has been murdered by morning. The prince raises the alarm, and the villagers think the queen is responsible. So they root her out. According to the monster, the moral of the story is that the prince may have killed the girl himself and pinned it on the queen. The monster also admits to helping the queen escape a fatal and unjust fate, however, deserved or not. After school on one of those days, his grandmother points him to see his mother. She has something important to tell him. When Conor meets his mother, she tells him to sit beside her, and then she relays the news that she will soon be starting a more effective treatment, which invariably means she has to go away for a while. He would have to stay at his grandmother's house in the interim. Conor hugs his mother and cries. Somewhere deep down inside of him, he fears the worst. At his grandma's place, she instructs him not to touch anything. She is on her way out to get some work done. So Conor is left by himself as he expects his dad to arrive soon from the States. Conor scans the house and listens to some music as he waits. Soon, his father arrives, and they head out to the amusement park. They generally have a good time until the subject of Conor's future is brought up. He says he doesn't want to end up with his grandmother. That evening, his father drops him off and apologizes in advance. Conor is home alone now and is somehow able to summon the monster by resetting the time to 7 minutes past 12 on the grandfather clock. So it appears and proceeds to tell him the second story as promised. It's about a parson versus an apothecary. In other words, a priest and pharmacist, respectively. The priest constantly tells his congregation never to patronize the apothecary because his ways do not align with Christian teaching. And so slowly but surely, the pharmacist is put out of business. More so, he is not allowed by the priest to harvest the same yew tree found on the church grounds for its healing properties. Unfortunately, this stance soon turns around to bite the priest. His 2 daughters fall ill, and he searches far and wide for a cure. Then he realizes the apothecary might be the only one who can help. The parson rides out to meet with the apothecary, but it's too late now. The apothecary can't help him as it is. The tree monster then tells Conor that the moral of the story is not to be hypocritical in your faith. The monster then suggests they smash and destroy the parson's house because he deserves it. So they start smashing things. Conor wakes up in the real world and sees the damage he has done there. While under the trance of the monster, he has managed to trash up the room in real life. Even the grandfather clock that was supposed to be an heirloom has been destroyed. Just then, his grandmother gets back, and Conor is both guilty and surprised at himself. She steps into the room, and you can see the pain on her face. Conor is in tears because he realizes the gravity of what he has done. His grandmother chooses not to say much as she shuffles away. That same night, Conor can hear her crying through the keyhole. When he wakes up the next morning, grandmother is gone to be with his mother at the hospital. But his father is there for him as a favor. They talk briefly on the promise that Conor will be allowed to see his mother that afternoon. Next, we see that they are at the hospital. A man in an expensive coat exits his mother's room and meets up with his grandmother down the corridor. Conor can hear his parents arguing about something. He goes into the room, and they both stop talking. Conor's father excuses himself and leaves. Conor tries to talk to his mother about her chances of surviving the treatments. She encourages him by saying the new medicines she will be taking are coming from a tree, just like the one close to their house. This cheers Conor up. Back at home, Conor waits impatiently for the time to clock 7 minutes past 12, and then he hears those familiar sounds of the tree monster approaching. He runs downstairs and outside, and there it is. Conor wants it to help him heal his mother, but it has other plans. It tells him he is not yet ready for the third story and then leaves unceremoniously. Before his father leaves for the States, he promises Conor he will send for him to come to see Los Angeles. Conor then goes on about the monster he sees and how it can heal his mother. His father merely brushes it aside. They are soon saying their last farewells in front of the house. Conor gets in and tries to do some house cleaning. Later on, that evening, while asleep, he hears the sounds of the TV and goes to check it out. His grandmother is watching a DVD his mother left behind. On it, his mother is teaching him a few drawing tricks. Conor sees that his grandmother is happy as she watches from the door peeking in. Conor, on his part, starts to really get into his more artsy side. He is fixated on drawing the monster as a primary subject. Back at school, it is midterm exam season, and during recess, the bully who constantly gives him trouble decides to let off, and they even shake on it. Just then, the clock reads 7 minutes past noon, and the monster appears to tell him the third tale. It says an invisible man didn't like that he was invisible and that no one ever noticed him. So he decided he had to do something about it. This story has parallels with what Conor is going through. And so the moral of the short story is that Conor had to make himself seen, starting with the bully. So Conor runs towards the bully and attacks him. Later on, Conor is at the principal's office, but she hesitates to punish him because of his present domestic situation. His grandmother picks him up and takes him to the hospital. His mother wants to talk, and so she tells him the last round of medications didn't work as she promised him. She also says he has a right to be angry and that she understands that. Conor runs from her bed and the hospital all the way home and to the yew tree. He confronts the tree about why it promised to heal his mother but didn't. He punches and kicks, and then the monster materializes. Conor is in tears and is distraught as he complains to the tree monster. He also wants to get back to his mom. The monster points him, and he sees her standing close to the church. Then the ground around it starts to give way. Conor rushes to her and holds onto her for dear life. But soon, he is compelled to let go. All the while, the monster intends to hear his tale, which doubles as the fourth tale. It is supposed to be the truth that will heal Conor. This is when Conor admits that he wanted all the pain to be over sooner for the sake of both his mother and himself. He also says he feels guilty for harboring such a thought. The monster calls him brave for coming clean. Conor slowly goes to sleep under the tree. His grandmother finds him there that evening and hurriedly takes him to be by his mother's side. Conor and grandmother reconcile at a train intersection. They soon get to the hospital in time for Conor to say his last goodbye. The tree monster is there, urging him on. Even his mother sees it too. So the moral of the fourth story is Conor lets go of his mother by holding her close. He is taken home, and his grandmother shows him to his mother's old room. He finds a drawing pad on the desk. It contains old drawings his mother made when she was a little girl, and to Conor's surprise, these drawings mirror the stories the tree monster told him. Conor also finds a drawing of the tree monster while his mother's younger self seats on its shoulders. This is proof that his mother knew the tree monster too. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and hit that notification button to open more files like this.